Welcome to episode 90 of the We Are Actuaries podcast. We're continuing our conversation about great actuarial leadership, and my guest today is an experienced actuary who leads a multidisciplinary team of 16 while working part time and raising three small children. Today's guest is Claire Greenwell, who was nominated as a great actuarial leader by her colleague Leonie Simmons. Claire currently works as a portfolio director at the NDIA, and she's here today to share her stories and advice on leadership, including the value of flexibility, what burnout taught her about boundaries, and why letting go of perfectionism made her a better leader. Claire, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julia. Thanks for having me.
It's interesting as I was reading your background, Claire, you were a life actuary, as I was a life actuary too, yet we hadn't crossed paths in this very small profession. And so when Leonie reached out to me and nominated you for the podcast, I actually wasn't connected with you and I had to reach out and say, Hi, I'm Julia, and you've been nominated to be a guest on the podcast. What was it like to hear of your nomination?
Yeah, it was surprising in some way because it's not something I was expecting, but also I think I have a unique and interesting story to share, which we
Mm.
will talk about soon. So I was very excited to have this opportunity and come and speak about being a leader and my experiences.
Very good. Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories, Claire, because I know you do have quite a unique experience and some unique tips and advice that you have for our listeners today as well. So, looking forward to getting into that. But before we do, I want to ask you the question I ask all my guests, and it's this: Claire, how do you use your actuarial superpowers to make a difference in the world?
Yes. So I, as you mentioned, work for the National Disability Insurance Agency, and I am very, very proud to be doing that work. I have a number of family members who have a disability. So throughout my life, I've really seen the value of genuine disability supports in people's lives, and particularly for younger people, where it helps them build up their independence and be involved in the community. So it's very meaningful for me to do the job that I do. Specifically, my role is leading a team of 16 people, as you mentioned, and it's a relatively new team in the agency. It's called Reporting Frameworks for Scheme Sustainability. And our role is very focused on providing reporting and insights on the emerging impacts of scheme reform. And we're in this really big
Wow.
reform environment with the NDIS at the moment too. So
Yeah.
it's really exciting and interesting work as well.
And sounds like it's really important work and very personally meaningful to you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great overlap when you can use your actuarial superpowers to make a difference in a world in a way that really matters to you as well as to so many other people that you're helping. So, yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about leadership. And as you suggested before, you've got quite an interesting story. I want to start with the idea of work life balance because I know this is particularly interesting to you, working part time and managing such a big team. What is your perspective on work life balance? Is it a myth or can you do it?
Yeah, so my perspective on this one's definitely changed over the last 3 years. So if I think back to mid 2023, at that time, I was working at the agency, I was living in Sydney, and I became pregnant for a second time. So I already had a 2-year-old at the time. And I got the absolute biggest shock of my life when I went to my first ultrasound and I found out that I was having twins.
Twins.
Twins, yes. No twins in the family. People always ask me that. No,
Ah,
wasn't on my radar at all. Like
wow.
it was crazy. So
Wow.
my partner was with me at that ultrasound, and after like sort of the hysterical laughter died down, because that is the reaction you have to that news, we just sort of looked at each other and said, "We've got to move to Brisbane." Like we made that decision then and there.
Why
My
Brisbane?
yeah, my mum and sister were living in Brisbane then, and we
Ah,
didn't have family support in Sydney.
ah, mm,
And also, just the other part of it is that we were planning to buy a house at that time. All of a sudden, we went from a family of four to a family of five,
mhm.
which we needed a bigger house, we needed a bigger car. And I don't even like talking about the daycare fees. It's eye watering. So it also just became unaffordable for us to
Yeah.
stay in Sydney as well. So it was just, we had to do it and knew that it was going to be really disruptive to our lives and our careers, but we didn't have a choice at that time. So I am really grateful for having, both a very supportive manager at work and a very supportive workplace. So that when I went back and said, look, I've got to move to Brisbane, they said, that's okay, we're going to work it out. And I moved to Brisbane while I was pregnant with the twins, which I don't recommend moving state lines while pregnant with twins, but I was able to work fully remotely before the birth. And since I've come back, I still work primarily remotely in Brisbane. Most of the team is based in Sydney and Melbourne. I'll go in maybe every few weeks. We now have a few Queensland actuaries, which is really great.
Okay.
But that's more a social connection piece because I don't work directly with any of them. So it's very different to what I pictured, my leadership role being. Working remotely, it's nothing I really saw for myself, and working part-time as well. I do a 9-day fortnight. But it's just something I've had to do to make it all work. And so when I think about work-life balance and is it something that actuaries can achieve, reflecting on my own experience, which is, like I said, somewhat unique, but I think for all parents who have sort of caring responsibilities or people who have, other caring responsibilities as well, I am such a strong believer in flexible workplaces. And really both flexible hours and that ability to work from home. I know that time I save on traveling every day, which is, 2 hours for me to get into the office, is going right back to my family, and meaning that I can spend a bit more time with them, which is so important with 2 working parents. And I also think it really improves my focus as well, because I'm not, you've got that big mental load of being a mother, of all the things back at home you have to get through, or am I going to make it to pick up with traffic and all those sorts of things. So I've seen it a huge benefit for myself to be able to do that.
It sounds like it wasn't just a benefit for you, it was actually essential for you to continue working with your employer. If they hadn't been able to allow you to work remotely, you would have had to find other work when you moved to Brisbane.
Absolutely. And I get the concerns around remote work. For myself, when we made that decision, I was really worried about whether I could be a leader and not have that in-office presence. But when I was reflecting on it for the podcast, I realized I don't even think about it anymore.
Oh, really?
Because we've just adapted and we make it work. And I think it reflects a broader move to increased work from home across, a lot of professional industries. Most of my team work from home now. I go in maybe 1 day a week, some more, some less. I think it's really up to the person to choose what works for their life and their circumstances. And there's lots of things we do to adapt and support that working arrangement. You've got your standard things like coordinating days in the office together. We have really active social champions at the agency who organise virtual and in-person activities. And everything we do, the agency is a federal agency, so we have people all over the country, which means every single thing we do has a virtual option by default. So those things really help. But for me, the things that I've done as a leader who's working remotely is really focus on that building trust in the team and the quality of their work rather than that focus on attendance. I make sure I'm really accessible all the times on Teams and email. So I highly prioritize responding to my team as quickly as I can, because they can't come tap me on the shoulder if something's wrong. So I've seen like a lot of growing confidence in just those messages saying, can I give you a quick call and chat to you for 5 minutes? And that's been working really well. And I just make sure to have a lot of regular touch points with the team. And I try to build in a lot of that chit chat. If you're attending a meeting, you don't just jump straight into the content. You do those sort of social check-ins, and also that talking about things that are going on around the agency, like, stuff that's relevant to their work or stuff that's happening with other teams. So you're sort of building that organic learning back in that you might have gotten in an office environment. And where it's a really high performing team, I don't see that it's changed anything at all. And for me, it's been so beneficial. So again, if I think, okay, work-life balance, have I got it figured out? Look, I've got 3 young kids. I'd say yes, some days no. But with flexible workplaces, it's so much more attainable than it would be if I was in office.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So there's so many benefits there. It's interesting listening to you talking about running a remote workforce and working and leading remotely as well. It got me thinking back to when and I'm going to show my age here, but when I was on maternity leave with my 4th child back in 2005. And I went on leave early because I was unwell with the pregnancy, but I still wanted to do some work. And it was a huge deal to be able to do some remote work in 2005. It was well before the pandemic. We didn't have Teams, it didn't exist. We didn't even, I think, have Zoom. It was a very different way of working. And working remotely, there was so much sort of trust, I guess, but less opportunity for that FaceTime, as you've said. It sounds like you've got some really practical strategies in there to be able to connect personally with your team and to be able to have that chit chat and to connect on a regular basis. And it's not just about being task focused, you're also building the relational aspects of work as well.
Yeah, and it's ongoing, I think. I'm sure a lot of places where they have these sort of options with remote work, I think it's not set and forget. It's constantly looking at new strategies because we're just adapting to a new way of work entirely, I think. And post-pandemic, I can see there's been a big push that people do have that preference to spend a lot more time at home. I'd love to be in the office more, to be honest, if I could. I do miss being around my colleagues, and sometimes working from home and having my kids, I feel like these walls are closing in on me a little bit. And I also have a lot of nostalgia for the whiteboard and the marker.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that's
I love a whiteboard.
I miss it. The Teams whiteboard doesn't compare, but
it's not the same.
Yeah, again, where I am in life now, this is the thing that I really need to still be able to contribute and to be a leader. Because if it wasn't happening, I'm not sure that I could do this job.
Yeah. And as you said, it's evolving at work, but it's also evolving at work too, at home too. Your children will grow. You won't be in this all 4 walls closing in on you phase forever. So, nothing stays the same for very long, for better or worse, I suppose. So speaking about being a busy mum, how do you juggle parenthood and leadership? What's that like for you? What does it look like in practice?
Yes. So I think I've started really positively talking about flexibility and how great that's been. But, being honest, returning to work after the birth of my twins was incredibly challenging. I think that's just the reality of it. And I have this particular moment that happened a few months after I came back from parental leave, where I was given the opportunity to act up as our branch manager. So that meant leading a team of 60 people.
Wow.
And it's one of those opportunities that before kids I would have been like, oh, fantastic, I'll do that. But I was still adjusting to life, working with 3 kids. The twins weren't sleeping that great. We were having lots of daycare illnesses, and I had a very challenging postpartum period with the twins. So I don't think I was fully recovered from that either at the time. So of course I still said yes because, these opportunities don't come along all the time. And I thought I'd have to take it while I could. And like the reality was I got just completely burnt out in those early days trying to do that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, you think you can still take everything on. Like, you don't want to accept that things have changed.
It's hard.
So, yes, I made that decision, but I realized a few weeks into it that I couldn't manage. So I had to call up my manager and I had to say, I can't do this. Can you come back And I also said at that point, please don't ask me again, which was
Okay.
really, really tough.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really coping at that time. There'd
Mm,
just been a lot of change in my life. Trying to accept that things were different were hard. And following that, I felt like a really big failure. Like I felt really guilty that I couldn't do what I was meant to do. And I just felt too many things were changing. And I ended up, at the point where I was breaking down at work and I had to take some time off for mental health leave, which again, my work is so supportive and really lovely around that time.
mm,
But what I learned from that is really important. I took that time, I connected with a psychologist, I got a lot of help from family and friends, and they really helped me to just accept that I needed to set boundaries. And like, I almost laugh talking about it because it sounds so obvious that if you've got 3 young kids, you have to do that. That's what you need to do. But I think when you're a high performer and you're so used to like, I can do everything, give me
mhm,
any challenge, I'm going to take it on, to suddenly be like, no, I can't do it. It's really that mental reset is a bit hard. Um,
mm, mm,
so I did get to a good place though, I learned to sort of say no to things. I didn't take on projects or acting up opportunities that I knew I just couldn't cope with. Putting a lot of limits on my time. I
mhm,
really didn't want to work past a certain time or on my days off. And another piece is that sort of mentally logging off at the end of the day as well. I think one of the things, like, we really focus on the time aspect, but before kids, I carried work around with me a lot.
yeah,
Like, we have such complex jobs, you're always thinking about it, you're running things through in your head. And with 3 kids, I can't do that. Like, they need
yeah,
my attention.
yeah,
And then, for my sanity, I need to turn my brain off at once they're in bed and watch trashy reality TV. That's the only
yeah,
way
yeah.
to survive. So,
Whatever
yes,
works to get you through.
yes, yes. But part of that boundary is that, like, logging off and logging off as well, if that makes
Mentally
sense.
logging off as well. Yeah.
That's it. So I think I've gotten a lot better at doing that. The twins are 2 now, so
Hmm.
they're slightly easier.
Hmm.
And I've still kept the boundaries in place, a little bit more flexible on them, but I've been really good at saying what I can and can't do. And people are really accepting of that. And they like to know as well, I
Yeah.
think. So I no longer feel like a failure because I'm saying these are the things I can and can't do.
Mm,
Um, but I do think as well, by doing that, there is a trade off when we talk about leadership and opportunities, that it does become somewhat restrictive on your career. And that is something I'm okay with. People say it's a season of life. I have so many older female colleagues who give me such great advice in this space. And I agree with them. Like, yes, things will change eventually, but I also do find it a bit hard to feel stuck and like I've got to sit here and wait 4 to 5 years, maybe
mm,
longer, to get more momentum in my career. So, along with those boundaries, like getting that help to set the boundaries, the other thing I really worked on was just trying to change my perspective
mhm,
a little bit and what it meant for me to be a leader. And instead of that focus on me and my progression and feeling sorry for myself because I'm sort of stuck in this situation at the moment, what really helped me was just turning that energy back inward onto the team. So at that point, I was actually taking on a new team, very different background to myself, and taking on this new mandate around reporting on reform. And so I just took it as an opportunity to be really people centered in the type of leader that I was. So, really focusing on that person centered resourcing of understanding everyone's interests and goals and trying to match them up with as new work came in, really trying to match it up to the right person, and also really increasing their visibility across the agency. So, I always ask myself the question, if I'm asked to speak or present at a meeting, I'll go, actually, can someone else do this? Um,
mm,
because what often feels like just everyday BAU work for me can actually be really wonderful for someone else who doesn't feel like they get those opportunities so much. So if
Yeah.
I'm taking a step back, how about I let others take those steps forward?
Yeah.
And that's been so fantastic to find like a new way to define success during this period of time.
Mm.
I think it's moving that perspective from really output focused of like, I'm doing these projects, I'm doing this complex work, I'm being seen, to being very people driven
Mm.
and improving outcomes for them. And what I found is that the outputs have followed. Like the work has
Mm.
been fantastic because people are really engaged with what they're doing. So I think even if things change for me and that I get more opportunities in the future, I've learned so much in this period that I hope to take that forward with me and keep that really people-centered
Mm.
leadership approach in the future
Mm.
as well.
Mm. Wow. It does sound like that there's been a lot of learning throughout this period for you, Claire. And I'm sorry to hear of your burnout experience. And thank you for being so open and honest and sharing what that was like for you and how you came through that. It also sounds as though there was quite a mindset shift for you too, going from being a high performer who always said yes and had so much capacity, and then that capacity is constrained because the reality of having three small children and twins, no less, as part of that mix. It's there. We may feel like we're superhuman, but we're still human, and we all only have 168 hours in the week. So does sound like there was quite a mindset shift there for you in terms of work. And you talked about, being okay with the trade-off career-wise. I mean, how did you make that shift? What helped you to kind of make peace with that, I suppose?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I did actually see a psychologist. Like that was, I think, reaching out for help
Mm,
is so important.
mm,
So that was the first piece. But I also have such supportive people that I work with as well.
mm,
So my manager, her name's Jess Lilly. She was on one of these earlier episodes, which I
mm,
really encourage people to listen to because she's wonderful. Having people you work with who have young families
mm,
and have been through similar situations and being able to share with them and talk with them, I found really valuable.
mm,
And maybe connecting back to that flexible workplaces. It's one of the things I love about working at the agency is that because we have policies like that, we attract so many people who are working parents or have different arrangements in place. And I think everyone goes through some sort of adjustment period
mm,
during these times. And the more we
mm,
can talk about it and be honest about it and learn from each other instead of just trying to be the people we were before,
mm.
the easier it becomes.
Yeah, yeah. So being able to talk to others, hear other stories, and not pretend like everything's how it used to be, but being open to that change. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Nice. I think listening to your recounting of that sort of transition and reflecting on my own experience of parenting small children and trying to have a career, I think parenting is actually such a gift in terms of leadership training, really. I mean, if you can wrangle, you were saying before we started recording, like 3 under 5 getting their teeth brushed, if you can do that, I mean, that's a leadership superpower in my book. So I'm curious, Claire, like what has parenthood specifically taught you about leadership that's helped you to become a successful leader?
Yeah, so I think the going from one children to three children is
In
actually
one
the
go.
yeah, in one go. It's a big jump, trust me. That's where I've learned a lot because when I think about my first child, it's so funny when I reflect back on it. I was so obsessed with doing the right thing
Mm,
all the time
mm,
as his mum. I read everything. I was on the internet, all the resources. So I was doing all the sleep schedules and the tracking. You can track all the data in the apps for like breastfeeds and nappies. And it was very development focused, making sure we did all our tummy time and reading lots and lots of books, all of that.
All very intentional.
Yes. And I also had a lot of trouble letting other people look after him.
Mm.
So in the rare times I'd send him to my mum's house, I would actually write a full itinerary for the day, which is
Wow.
so embarrassing because my mum had 6 children. So I don't know why I didn't think she'd be able to handle all one child,
Yep.
but that's what I did because I thought it would be helpful and
Yep.
I didn't want her to have the uncertainty that I was having as a first time
Yeah.
mum.
Yep.
So when I went from that situation to having the twins, obviously all of that went out the window entirely. I had zero time to contemplate what the right thing was to do.
Yeah.
And even when I did actually try and look something up, a lot of the times actually not relevant. Things that apply to one baby can't always apply to 2 babies. So I was very much forced into just that world of taking shortcuts to survive with the kids.
Wow.
So, I went to formula instead of breastfeeding. The tracking didn't do that at all. And, we had nowhere near as much tummy time or books or any of that. Like it was just survival mode.
Survival.
And I absolutely had to accept so much help. In the
Mm.
first 6 months of the twins' life, my mum was over every single day to help me because my
Mm.
partner had to go back to work very
Mm.
early, and
Mm.
I couldn't survive with 2 little kids on my own.
Mm.
So things changed drastically in my approach, and now I have only 2 rules with the kids, which is the twins must sleep at the same time. Which, if you're a parent of multiples, you know that one. And what happens at Nunu's house stays at Nunu's house, which is the name.
Love it.
Yes. So, if my kids are happy and safe and I've got a small break during the day,
Mm.
they're all great. That's all we need.
Mm.
But getting to the point where I could let go and be in that space was hard
Mm.
because I, not surprisingly from what I've said before, am a perfectionist.
Mm.
And knowing the right things to do at any point in time gives you that sense of control.
Yeah.
So when you've got 2 little babies, you really want the answers because things are spinning out of control, but they
Mm.
just weren't there. But what I found is the more I was forced to let go, the more I actually learned about being a mother.
Mm.
So instead of, well, like there's that saying that kids don't come with an instruction manual. It's true. You can't look up anything. There aren't actually any right answers. And what I was able to do was start to rely on my own intuition. And, being their mother, I'm the person who knows them best. I can make these decisions about them. I don't need to turn to a book or the internet to tell me what to do.
Mm.
And by doing that, I feel like I've become such a confident mother who
Mm.
really trusts her own judgment and trusts myself to make decisions about my kids.
Mm. Wow. And making probably better decisions because they're decisions based on your knowledge of them rather than average knowledge from the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I said, the twins are 2 now. I can look at my kids and I can realize no matter what I did, it actually didn't make any difference whatsoever. You put so much like weight on those early months, but they're all wonderful, bright, happy kids.
Yeah.
The hours of tummy time didn't have some massive payoff on my first child compared to my second two. So, yeah. And I think if I take that and I apply that to leadership, when I've come back from work, I've really actually been working hard on dialing down those perfectionist tendencies.
Mm.
And I like to think that when we talk about actuarial judgment, that there's this overlap with that parent's intuition.
Mm.
Like I know my kids really well. I'm also a leader who's worked at the agency for nearly 9 years. I know it well too, and I've got to trust my own judgment and my own intuition. So what that means for me is that I don't need to be involved in everything and know every single last detail to know if something is right or wrong
Mm.
or if work is developing in the way that it needs to. And hand in hand with that, when you dial down that perfectionism, you learn to start delegating to others, like I had to do with the
Yeah.
kids. And so you build trust in your team, which empowers them, and you take stuff off your plate that you don't really need to be doing. So, all in all, by having less of that control and empowering others to take things over, you make it a better experience for everyone in the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Win-win.
Absolutely. And look, to be honest, it is still a work in progress. I think perfectionism can be undone overnight. It is tough, and like my worst instincts still come out now and then. But I think that letting go, like what parenthood taught me really is you've got to let go and trust yourself and trust others, and it makes you a better leader.
Mm, mm. There's definitely benefits in there, even if it's not easy. And, personally, I describe myself as a recovering perfectionist. So,
Yeah,
I
I
do
think
think
that's
I do think that's a work in progress, something we have to keep working on and remembering the benefits of as well. So, Claire, thank you so much for sharing, so many really valuable insights from your very unique story, and juggling three small children, working part-time, being a leader, working remotely, how you've managed that. And it sounds like you've been doing that very well on the work front and on the home front. So that's amazing. I want to finish our interview with one final question, and it's this. Claire, what's your top tip for actuaries aspiring to leadership roles?
I was going to say don't have twins, but no, my children are the light of my life. No, seriously, I think people leadership is really important to me. So something I've learned along the way is how important it is to have sort of external support on the people side. So what I mean is that with people, sometimes you run into difficult situations, right? You might have someone who's not performing as expected, or you can have issues with team members. And I think there's rarely an easy answer to that. And also, we sometimes have a tendency to be reactive when it comes to people issues rather than being objective and making the right decision. One of the things I found so helpful, and I'm actually in a very fortunate position, is that my partner is an organizational psychologist.
Ah,
So when I've come across difficult people issues, I will often, keeping privacy in place, but I will have a discussion with him as someone who's sort of objective and not involved. And he will always say to me, instead of like, oh, yeah, they've messed up or this person's done the wrong thing, he says something along the lines of like, okay, what's gone wrong with the systems that are in place and what can you actually do about it?
mm,
And it really helps me reframe the problem
mm.
and think about it from that different perspective. So I found his advice really invaluable. And I think having that sort of objective resource in your life when you're dealing with people issues it's really just very, very helpful, and something I've just found, yeah, very, very invaluable.
Yeah, very good, very good. What a great duo you two are.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Claire, thank you so much for taking the time out today to share your quite unique story, and some really valuable advice for either working parents or working parents to be. I know there's a lot of people that talk to me about what might life look like once they have children, and what does that look like in terms of practical day-to-day type changes. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Julia.